For more Microsoft webcasts, you can go to Microsoft.com/webcast. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to our Momentum webcast entitled Connecting People and Business Using the 2007 Office System. I would like to introduce today's presenter, Indy Botaiju. Indy is a partner technology specialist for the Microsoft Corporation. Indy, you now have the floor.
Thank you very much, and thanks everyone for attending today to our webcast. It's a three-part webcast which we previously covered, connecting people and business with focus of Microsoft Exchange and SharePoint services with the Office 2007 system as the focus. Today we like to focus on emphasis on Office 2007. How can we connect people and businesses and perhaps collaborate and develop our products and services much faster than the market? So having said that, just to recap on the synergy behind the Office 2007 system and team at Microsoft, we want to take a look at what kind of trends and feedback and requests that we are facing with the global market. So when we talk about the new world of work today, we're talking about one world of business, businesses that extend beyond time zones, beyond countries to several different geographical and organizational boundaries. And we want to make sure we both, while we across these time zones and teams and suppliers and customers and partners, we still be able to have software that create and play a role to simplify that communication and be able to work together. Some of the other things that's happening with the same team today is to actually find out what we call always connected. What that means is simply having a way. How can we, by the way, how can we forward this to the animation, because there's some animation supposed to come through this slide. Let me take a minute. It's making sure that you can actually see the slide.
I believe it's spacebar on your keyboard.
Okay. Okay, actually it's the enter button, spacebar didn't work. Great. So next thing I want to move on to always on and always connected. What we mean by that is a different organization and different business roles connect to our information at different levels at different times using different applications. So when we're in the office, typically we rely on Outlook or web browser to connect to our data and information and be able to find that information. But once we leave the office, perhaps we could use a laptop or tablet PC, now a lot of Windows mobile devices. So regardless of where we at, or what time zone we at, what application we use, we want to make sure that we have that transparent, seamless experience accessing information. And the third pillar is we want to be transparent to organizations. So we may have several key role players within the businesses that we leverage. Most importantly, folks like suppliers and vendors who provide raw materials for us. And when we cross boundaries and security within an organization, and when we reach another country or another organization, we want to make sure this information is secure and be able to easily manage the content back and forth. You know, who has the security to or access to financial data versus who has access to the collaborative documents and meeting space. So this is the pillars that we have been working at Microsoft. At the end of the day, we have to make sure all these systems and processes, these synergy around people. That's what we talk about, people-ready solutions and people-ready business. So let's take a look at today's topic and some of the pain points that we are facing today. How does the collaborative product development affect customers and vendors and teams and suppliers? So all of us can relate to connecting internal teams and customers, especially when it comes to leveraging outsourced design teams or application builders across different countries, we want to make sure we can share our documents and design blueprints. Anything that we use, things like bills of material, are available across all these teams. What that essentially means is enabling that virtual access or virtual collaboration to be able to change and reviews and be able to create approval processes among several different teams, so we can eliminate some of the latency that we have on going to market. So all of us can relate to what would happen if you have a product or service but you're slow to the market, and what type of impact that would have on your business or the product that you're about to launch. And that basically relates to high product development costs and not being able to meet the deadline, or not being able to meet the budget. So essentially you're late to the market, as well as you are at a high cost level even before you launch the product. And then the other thing is, since we are not leveraging customer feedback, whether we get that survey information before we actually design the product, through the design cycle, or even after we launch the market, if we don't have that communication process back and forth, then what we have is basically we have a latency once again on things like design change requests from customers. Customer may need subtle changes or subtle new features for them to be able to use the product. So lack of collaboration across the entire enterprise slows down the entire process, all the way from gathering feedback at the beginning from customers to engineering team, perhaps you're a product manager, program manager, then it goes back to the front end folks like your sales and marketing and the field, or perhaps it could be an e-commerce website. So it ripples through the entire infrastructure, not having that collaboration going across the business model. So if we look at organizational impact, there are key players within the product cycle. One would be a program manager who perhaps design a product based on customer feedback and surveys or specialty groups that they have talked to about coming up with a new product. So not having that communication going back and forth with the special group, the greatest thing for us, for example, would be when we are creating a product like software, we had to be able to engage with the IT pros and customers who actually provide feedback during the beta cycle. So as a program manager, I need to have that access to the customers readily available, so I can have a quick turnaround to redefine or change the product itself. So obviously, if we don't have that communication, what would happen is I'm going to be late to the market. I have to delay the products. So that would also have a ripple effect on folks like marketing and sales department, because they have to change the messaging around the product launch itself. And the other part is products may not meet the customer needs. Since we have a delay, by the time we design the product and by the time we go to the market, there will be a quite long time before we reach the actual customer. The other person who's really involved in this cycle would be a product manager. He or she may miss the market opportunity, because by the time we actually launch the product, there might be a number of competitive products in the marketplace. So we have a little room to promote and sell that product and have the improve that product on the next go around. Not to mention that by the delay, you completely lose the competitive advantage that you may have, and that completely relates to loss of revenue. If you bring in a role like design engineer is going to be simply slow to respond to customer needs, because by the time we do a customer survey and it filters through the organizational structure, the design engineers may get this information perhaps 1 month or 6 months behind. So any product improvements that we have to do, whether it's QA or whether it's the actual new design, we pretty much missed the deadlines or release dates on those. So we can bring in other players in the organization, for example, suppliers. Who are my suppliers? Who's providing my raw materials? So that would be a third-party player in our production cycle, and they get the information even a little longer than a normal time period. So we might not have the raw material that we need to change the product or improve the product. Also, on the front end, business players like marketing and sales are going to be affected by that. So all these things that I just mentioned is actual challenges we face today. So if you take a look at how can we change these challenges or business challenges into an actual potential solution. So just to recap, I talked about speed of a new product and the development cycle and how quickly we go to the market is essentially the success to your product and being successful in the marketplace. So you can, if you want to itemize, you have so many different things that you can highlight. So a couple of things we put out here is the development cycle, global marketplace, teams are not working together, and the other things like time zone differences. Even in within the United States, you may have the product team in the West Coast and the marketing team, engineering team in the East Coast. How can we synchronize and be able to overcome the time difference? And the other thing is the cost. Cost overrides everything we try to do. So not having infrastructure to support efficient collaboration delays the entire cycle. And perhaps when it comes to suppliers, they're probably not involved at the right time at the right place. If they're involved at the beginning of the product development cycle, perhaps they can give us feedback on how to reduce costs and be able to have more efficient cycle throughout from the designing to launch. So what do we need to do to create a component or collaboration model? So it's essential that we communicate regardless of what tool, what method, whether we get on the phone or whether we simply go to a website. We have to collaborate. I think all of us understand that. The second pillar is, now that we have communication, how can we create some workflows? So I want to make sure that we create dependencies throughout the process. Program manager and the product manager and the design engineer sits down and have a discussion. What are the action items that I take from that discussion, and how can I create that workflow? For example, certain people have to approve the design before the product manager goes out or program manager goes out and talk to the suppliers, who talk to the marketing and sales. And then the other part is efficiency and efficacy. So that relates to project management as well as portfolio management. So how can we create effective checkpoints along the way and be able to relate to the budget and some of the financial constraints we may have for the project? So let's take a step back and take a look at what Microsoft have to offer to this solution. So when we look at all these pain points in collaboration, we have a single solution that we can build our technology and solution upon. That is 2007 Office SharePoint Server. So if you look at this pie chart and go around the several features and solutions we offer, first thing we want to start is collaboration. So what are we talking about when we say collaboration? Things like be able to share common items that we use every day. Our documents, our tasks, our email, calendars. Then we can extend that to blogs and components like wikis. So, and then all these components be able to access a single point of or centralized access point. So when things that I mentioned, all the collaborative items are today locked into Outlook. So while I'm in the office, I can use that information through Outlook. When I leave the office, for example, I can go to a web browser and be able to access that. Or I can access the same information on my mobile device. So you see that is the main point. Then we may need this collaboration point for several groups. Perhaps my program manager would need a team to collaborate within the players among that team. And then design engineer would have a team. Then sales and marketing, as well as the suppliers and vendors, would have teams. So we, depending on the business and the size of product that you create and number of people involved in it, you may need to have more than one single collaboration site. So we can create a different portal based on the product or based on groups, or depends on how you handle business itself. So as we grow these portals or number of websites, easy way to put it, then I may need to have a method, one, to search and be able to find out information and documents across not only the business groups that I mentioned, but also be able to search beyond our organization. I want to be able to say, hey, I want to find out the information from our competitors. What are they doing? Do they have a similar product? How can we compete? What is the time for them to come to market? Can we launch our product at the same time? So search is become a very creative option and be able to leverage that technological edge. Then the other piece is content management. As I mentioned before, as an organization, when we manage content, there are maybe documents that you want to keep it in-house and not to share with third-party suppliers and vendors. So how can I manage that? How can I create that process? Then that goes into business processes. You can create both front-end and back-end line of business applications to create that business process. For example, it could be Microsoft Project Server. It could be Microsoft Project Portfolio Server. It could be a customer relationship management server. Have the checksum in business processes to manage the entire life cycle. And also business managers and your CEO, CFO type role players may need information about business intelligence. At any point of the production, product life cycle, I want to find out who is involved, how much money we have spent, where we at on the product life cycle, what T-minus plans that we have involved to launch this product. So we can collaborate all that information through a base platform like Microsoft Office SharePoint Server 2007. So how does this high-level solution relates to a single product life cycle, like creating a development solution? If you look at the role players, we can have a customer, or that's our end result. So customers could give feedback once again, even before we launch the product or after we launch the product. They may be talking to our sales or services or engineering to give us feedback on new features that that they request or any type of defects that we may have. Engineering may have to communicate to suppliers as well as to other engineering team, bill of material folks that were supplying this information. This life cycle again comes back and end that customer. So you notice all these key players can hold the time to market that decrease the time for us to work efficiently. The great thing about SharePoint is that all these key role players that I mentioned can establish these hierarchical web structure or a collaboration site to be able to communicate from a single server like SharePoint server and be able to maintain this cross-group collaboration among customer sales and marketing and engineering. And perhaps I can also be able to provide something like e-commerce website if that is the route that you want to go through. Yet each of these role players can log into a site either at the front end or the back end, be able to gather this information to find out how the product is doing, what type of feedback do we have from the customers, any customer reviews on satisfaction or dissatisfaction. So once again, all of these pillars are created. So what you're looking at here is the collaborative team structure in user level. So deep down, when we look at Microsoft solutions, how well we integrate, that's another question that most of you probably have. Well, I have been using Office for quite some time. I have part of this process already in place. I'm creating a lot of new products and going to market. How can I reduce this and yet leverage the existing Microsoft infrastructure that we have been using quite some time? And I also may have some customers, attending our webcast today, totally new to the Microsoft Office solutions and collaboration. So if you take a look at, and I'm trying to keep it this very basic level, what is the platform we use? So most of you, when we talk about centralized management and centralized access point, we start off with the Windows Server 2003. Windows Server 2003 provides a base Windows SharePoint services, which is basically the slide that I showed you before, how to create team websites. Once I have that foundation, I can always extend that foundation into database strategies like SQL Server 2000 or 2005. What that allows me to do, any business intelligence I have, customer demographics, customer survey information, anything that I've gathered, I can import that information to SQL Server so I can use some of my services to gather better intelligence about both customer service and the internal organizational structure and how we go to market. So services like Project Server 2007 will give you budgeting information, would give you access to resource planning, reporting, any type of timesheet or scheduling that you may have to do. We can also leverage products like Office Project Portfolio Server. Now I can bring into the financial side of the product life cycle. I can find out, what are our capabilities, how much budget we have, are we on track? So this is the foundation that you create behind the IT organization. But what's important to my program manager and my product manager and design engineer and the marketing person is using this front-end applications that we use every day, not only inside our organization, but the familiar applications that your customers and vendors are using out there, so we can speak the same language throughout this process. So when we look at some of the common applications out there in the business place, perhaps Microsoft Office is the first one to mention. So we access the information using Office and Outlook and Word, PowerPoint, Excel. But you may not be in the office. Then at that point, even on the project, I can go into Project Web Access component and be able to get that information through a website. So this is essential to your vendors and suppliers. They might not be part of your organization, and in today's world, that is most likely the case. So what can I do simply to give them access without compromising my security? I can simply give them a website to go to, and I can decide what information I want to share, and they can simply access that. Also, you can leverage other Microsoft business applications like Microsoft Customer Relationship Management or CRM. Also, you can use components like Business Scorecard Manager if you really need up-to-date business information and data as to what's happening with your business. You can get a score sheet by using that platform. So you can see today, with all the pain points and challenges we talked about, going to market with a new product can be tackled through a Microsoft integrated Office solution. We have the complete platform available today. So some of the things that we brought into market with the Office 2007 launch is the SharePoint Server 2007, all the business intelligence tools, search tools, content management tools, along with the Microsoft Office Project Portfolio Server that essentially gives you access to a portal level at any point in the business. The next key thing that I want to talk about, all these solutions are great, but what we have been hearing from customers is these solutions should be something that's easy to use and commonly used applications by many people, which I mentioned earlier. So I just have a few screenshots that basically highlight what this communication process brings to us. So number one is, if we have a corporation with 10,000, 20,000 users, you may not know everyone's role and who they report to, what type of role they play across the boundaries. So in this case, Julian Price logged onto our website. He's a financial analyst. I can find out the information. I can find out details about the organization, who he works with, perhaps information about groups and other groups that they participate, co-workers who are logged into this website. You see the chat or MSN logo on the right-hand side of the window. So I can start a communication right from this page without having to pick up the phone, without having to switch to Outlook. So that is the type of communication and collaboration we're talking about. No matter what application that you happen to have open, we should be able to launch that conversation right from there. If we go down to another level, okay, great that we have a central place for communication, but how can we leverage that communication platform to do perhaps project management, to managing a new product or service or solution? So with the Windows SharePoint services, I can incorporate my project management pillars. So you can go in here and see the screenshot and be able to find out the timelines, what tasks we have available and what time we need to join certain tasks or what time we need to complete them. Also, we can create a task at the bottom of the window. We can attach any supporting documents that we need for this project. Perhaps I can also link them to Outlook right from this web page. So having that information readily available to go right from our portal server or services or simply a website into a component like Outlook that we use every day, that's going to make that communication process much more efficient. To take it to another level, so if you use an application like Project Server 2007, I mentioned that you can access through a website. So what are the first things that you would see on a project server is you're going to have a lot of tasks and workflow. What if I can incorporate that task and workflow into, once again, the application I use daily, which is Outlook? As you can see a screenshot, all these things I can, from a single click, either I can drag and drop or I can link to Outlook. So once we close that web access, it would become part of my task or appointments inside Outlook. By having that in the Outlook, that means I have that information in a central location. So now I can close the Outlook and use my mobile device. I still have that information. So if you happen to be at a lunch meeting and someone calls you and asking about deadlines and appointments and meetings and tasks, I still have the access to that information. So it flows across several boundaries. Another way to look at it, it's easy for us to communicate, especially across the teams, especially into third-party suppliers and vendors, by having a visual representation of our, for example, resources that's available by area, so by teams. It could be reports for product output or deadline. So the product itself or the communication and collaboration website will provide various number of results that I can create along with flowcharts or blueprints that you may want to use across several different groups. You see this integrated connection with Microsoft Office system where you can import and export documents back and forth between Excel and Microsoft Visio. If you have the information in Visio, for example, I can take that information into Microsoft PowerPoint as well. So once again, once you have that information or the business intelligence out of one application, I can take that into several different applications across the board, especially, once again, third parties may not use all these applications or solutions. We can simply give them the output that the way they like to see it. So having that enhanced collaboration, as you can see, minimize the impact on some of the common issues that we face. One is the geographic issues, the time zone, and the time difference during the product development teams and life cycle. And then again, the most important part to me is extend that collaboration experience to key stakeholders outside of your company. So I can have a discussion with a third party. I can say, hey, we may need your help 6 months down the road, but I can make them part of that communication cycle right from the beginning so they know what's coming, how they need to prepare, and when they have to be able to provide that help or create that new product. And the other part is integrate the whole communication and collaboration experience into a structured model and ad hoc model. So it depends on access point. You have a method to communicate. Obviously, what this allows us to do by having all the stakeholders in a single place, we can make this decision much faster, real time. I can be on a portal, as an example, and be able to chat with somebody right from that portal or inside Outlook, and not, or perhaps leave a message, but not have to wait for that person. What that leads to is fast time to market. So capture and being able to capitalize key market opportunities with new and improved products. So we can look at whether the product that we are creating or the competition that we have in the marketplace, we can react to the customer needs and the market needs much faster. Other thing that I want to highlight here is the customer appeal or customer satisfaction. We can use that by getting that information much faster to be able to do better planning, whether with the existing products or the next version of the product, or some of the updates we may have to do as a regular update, especially if you are into software market. The time to respond to market is very small, so you have to have a quick turnaround. Also, we can reduce development costs because most of the lag time is eliminated by having that centralized communication. And the most important thing is the automated. So as you listen to this presentation, all these applications and solutions we mentioned, the key thing for you, if you're a business owner, if you're a product manager, a design manager, or engineer, you want to really find out and take a step back and say, how do I roll this solution? So if you decide to leverage Microsoft SharePoint Server 2007 with the Office Project Server, you really need to sit down with all the team members and automate that workflow. Without the key workflow, you might not have the deadlines or the business processes in play. That's how you identify and resolve most of these real-time issues that you're facing, and you leverage that information to shorten your product life cycle. So how you deploy the product and how you create the workflow is really important when we talk about communication and collaboration. Otherwise, it would become a web portal without any checkpoint, a place for everyone to come and dump their timesheets and scheduling and tasks, but not a process itself. And the other part is a key component for Microsoft is how do we educate you as the customers to leverage the existing technology and assets that you already have and be able to have that interoperability with what you have and create that a single model or single system across the platform. What this leads to is better customer satisfaction. You can build perhaps a much bigger and better portfolio of products that meet customer needs and be able to respond back and forth. Microsoft is a great example today. We have so many products and solutions in the marketplace today, so we have to be able to quickly integrate feedback and be able to have that output. For example, one or two customers may find a security fix for certain products. We have to be able to take that from product services team to engineers to actual person who write the code. Then it has to go to a team who test and be able to make that update available through Microsoft Update. Average time today for Microsoft updates is 23 days. So there are a lot of things happening in 23 days in our business space for us to come to market and reduce that pain point of customer satisfaction. So that's the control process we use to resolve most of the issues we have. Then also you can do your own research and find out what type of emphasis that the research companies are putting on collaboration. So in this case, the Butler Group is talking about how collaboration just simply goes beyond your corporate boundaries. In the global market, we have so many players that we need to associate and leverage in order for us to have a better product to the market. So it's becoming more important than 10, 15 years ago. And another thing that's happening today, according to IDC, as we all know, outsourcing is playing a key role, especially when it comes to manufacturing. Most of the devices are perhaps made in other parts of the world. If we have actual product, then how that product would get shipped to the customer. I read an article on IDC a couple of weeks back. How a person went and ordered a media player, and the media player was, made in another country, but time that person ordered that media player and the actual time received to the customer's hand was 4 days on the regular shipping all the way from another country. So that type of efficiency, really plays a key role by having that collaboration from a central point. And the other pillar that I've seen lately adding into portfolio management. So now we are adding, financial asset management for product life cycle management. Be able to implement that portfolio management is another key pillar. That's where you see even Microsoft has Office Project Portfolio Server to extend that service and functionality. So as you can see, we have a full range of solutions based on at what level and what scalability you need. But the most important thing that I want to emphasize as you work with Microsoft, especially on manufacturing and product development companies, you can achieve all of these collaboration features like connecting people and teams and suppliers, etc. But the most important thing that I want to highlight is as you leverage partners and consultants to deploy and customize and integrate these solutions, you really need to sit down and spend some time as a decision maker to how do we do this every day. You want to find out your discussions about going to market, creating a product. You want these consultants to deploy that into a solution on the web base. So if something, for example, if something is not happening at a certain point, you had a T-minus plan of 30 days of finalizing discussions about product design. And when that doesn't happen, all the key stakeholders should be informed by an application, should be by a task base, or probably perhaps by an email base saying, hey, we had a deadline for March 6th of making a final decision on whether to keep it or cut it on a certain feature on the product. Have we done that? Do we have components and trigger points in the application or solution itself to make that aware to the customer? That is absolutely the essential feature. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of applications and systems in place, but it's not connecting with the humans to make that decision for you. So sit down with our partners, sit down with your consultants, or sit down with your in-house IT folks and have that discussion. That is going to be the key to achieving this fast time to market and reducing your costs using Microsoft technology. So some of the next steps you can see some of the guides and how to win new businesses by going to Microsoft.com/office/showcase. You can attend our the future webcasts, as well as you can get a lot of case studies and best practices from Microsoft.com/office. By the way, you can print the presentation today to a PDF file, so you have the information available when you decide to implement the solutions. With that being said, I want to thank everyone for attending the webcast today. If you have questions, you can submit the questions now. I might be able to get some. Otherwise, I will email the answers back to you. Let me give the floor back to you so you can open for questions.
All right, fantastic, Indy. Thank you very much. Would like to share some additional resources with our Momentum crowd here today. We will begin our question and answer session in just a moment, but once again, feel free to go ahead and ask away. Type your question into the field on the bottom of your screen next to the Ask button, and then simply click that Ask button. I am going to be providing a survey for today's event in just a moment, and if you could take a few seconds to go ahead and complete today's survey. The feedback and comments that you provide ultimately allow us to create better webcasts for you, so your feedback is greatly appreciated. As I mentioned, here you go. If you could right now, just go ahead and follow the links that are provided in your interface and just take a minute to go ahead and complete today's webcast evaluation. Again, your comments are quite valuable to us. At this time, I was going to hand the floor back to Indy, but it appears that there are no questions pending at this time. Again, if anyone has any remaining concerns or wants anything worked out, feel free to go ahead and ask your question away. We will remain online for the next several minutes to answer any follow-up questions that you may have. With that, I would like to extend a special thank you to Indy for his presentation today. I would also like to thank everyone for attending today's webcast. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude our Momentum program. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. You may now disconnect from the audio portion of this conference.